Coming up today, setting the ball in motion, the presidential office is set to submit a confirmation motion for Prime Minister nominee Hwang Kyo-ahn to the National Assembly this afternoon. A busy few days are lined up for the top nuclear envoys of South Korea, the United States and Japan as they kick off 2 days of talks in Seoul later today. Ways to deal with North Korea's nuclear program will top the agenda. Plus, as the leadership succession process continues at Samsung, two of the group's affiliates announced their plans to merge by the end of August. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Tuesday, the 26th of May. You're tuned into our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thanks as always for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. And we start with the next steps for Korea's Prime Minister nominee Hwang Kyo-ahn. President Park Geun-hye is expected to submit a confirmation motion to the National Assembly later today. After the motion is filed, Parliament has 20 days to hold confirmation hearings and vote. The presidential office wants Hwang confirmed before President Park's trip to the US in mid-June, but he'll face intense scrutiny from the opposition party, which has already zoomed in on his military exemption, alleged tax evasion and conservative views on national security. Last Thursday, President Park tapped the current Justice Minister as her new Prime Minister, expressing confidence in his abilities to lead her political and anti-corruption reforms. And at a cabinet meeting earlier today, President Park urged Parliament to cooperate and confirm Hwang's nomination. She stressed that the government is carrying out reforms to revitalise the economy and to root out corruption, and the new Prime Minister should be confirmed to lead these efforts. The President also called on the rival political parties to pass a pending bill to reform the country's public employee pension system by the end of this month's extraordinary session on Thursday. The National Assembly failed to approve the bill early this month due to differences over linking the civil servant pension to a national pension fund. And on a related note, Korea's two main rival parties are locked in discussions with just 2 days remaining before their agreed deadline to pass a bill to overhaul the budget-sucking public employee pension system. The ruling Saenuri Party held a general meeting of its lawmakers this morning, gathering opinions on the reform bill. The main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy is demanding the resignation of Welfare Minister Moon Hyung-pyo and the attached condition of raising national pension payouts. Now, the ruling party opposes both those demands, so the party's floor leaders will meet sometime on Tuesday to try and reach a compromise. The two parties agreed earlier this month to pass a new bill at the full assembly on Thursday, May 28th. The chief nuclear envoys of South Korea, the United States and Japan will hold trilateral talks in Seoul on Wednesday morning. Top of their agenda is seeking ways to resume the long-stalled six-party nuclear talks and preventing future military provocations by North Korea. Now, Pyongyang has been raising tensions on the Korean peninsula with its recent testing of a submarine-launched ballistic missile and claims about the strength of its nuclear program. Ahead of their trilateral meeting, the officials will hold two-way talks on this Tuesday and also a working dinner. The South Korean and American envoys will fly to Beijing on Thursday, where they are going to hold trilateral talks with their Chinese counterpart. Now, military threats, provocations and high-level purges have prompted many to question what exactly is happening inside North Korea these days and just how stable is the Kim Jong-un regime. For a detailed insight, our Hwang Sung-hee sat down with former U.S. Ambassador to South Korea Donald Gregg to see what he makes of the current situation.
You visited North Korea last year, and your previous visit was when Kim Jong-il was in power. So did you sense a difference in tone among the North Korean officials there?
I sensed a big difference. I had last been there in 2008 with the New York Philharmonic, and I went last February. Kim Gae-kwan had been my usual contact. He'd been promoted, and so I dealt with Ri Yong-ho. I said, I think we make a terrible mistake in not talking with you. And he said, well, we don't think President Obama is going to talk to us. He's got enough on his plate. So we'll just wait until there's an American president who is willing to talk. And in the meantime, the sky is the limit for us under Kim Jong-un. Now, I'd never heard anybody say that before. And Pyongyang itself looked very good. People were wearing better clothing. Everybody seemed to have a cell phone. And I could tell that the North Koreans were very proud of what they are accomplishing and are very optimistic about what they will accomplish in the future.
You once mentioned in an interview of a chance that Kim Jong-un could have been educated in the U.S. Do you think this was a missed opportunity?
When he came, first surfaced in North Korea, I knew he had been educated in Switzerland, was a basketball nut, great fan of the Chicago Bulls. And so I wrote Vice President Biden saying, here's a young man who's going to be around for decades. Here's a chance to bring him to the United States, show him around. I added in my letter, they may not accept it, but they'll never forget the fact that it was offered, because it was an offer of respect. And we do very, very little of that with the North Koreans. And I think it was a real missed opportunity.
Secretary Kerry recently spoke of more sanctions on North Korea. Do you think this is the right time to put more pressure on North Korea?
We've recently learned that North Korea is selling a great deal of anthracite coal to China, and China is paying hard currency to them. That's their largest source of hard currency, and that they are doing it in ways that don't register on the sanctions. So I don't think the sanctions are very effective. They hurt the little people, and they haven't stopped a major flow of hard currency from China into North Korea.
The Obama administration has been making efforts to mend ties with Iran and Cuba. Could North Korea be next on President Obama's list?
I wish that Obama would reach out to North Korea, but I don't think he will, because he's under fire from the Republicans already for reaching out to Cuba and Iran. And we have demonized North Korea to the extent that there's absolutely no political support on anybody's part urging President Obama to reach out to North Korea. If he did it, he would be moving solo. So I think it would be a very difficult move for Obama to make against the feeling that's rampant in the United States that Kim Jong-un is going to collapse. And I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to be dealing with him for a long time, and the sooner we start, the better.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your time today.
My pleasure.
Now, North Korea may be developing a new threat to security on the Korean peninsula. South Korean military officials report the regime is building a military facility on an island just north of the heavily guarded inter-Korean border in the West Sea. The officials say the site has been under construction since March and is now home to 5 bunker-like camps. Pyongyang may install 122mm multiple rocket launchers or use the bunkers as guard posts. Although Seoul can say it can strike back with Spike missiles already in that region, military tensions are bound to escalate if the facility becomes operational, as the regime's artillery will be able to target nearby South Korean islands. This area has often been a source of conflict between the two Koreas. In 2010, 2 civilians and 2 military officers died after North Korea shelled Yeonpyeong-do Island. The United States plans to develop a new missile defense system to better counter North Korea's missile threats. The U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee has added an extra $20 million to develop a new program dubbed the Multiple Object Kill Vehicle, upping the total budget to $66 million. The MOKV is designed to take out multiple incoming targets and revolutionize the U.S. missile defense system. It's also expected to test run by the year 2020. Now, Washington has been steadily bolstering its defense system against North Korea. It has deployed 30 ground-based missile interceptors to Alaska and California and plans to deploy 40 more by 2017. Seoul Industries and Samsung C&T, two key affiliates of Samsung Group, are planning to merge by September. The restructuring at Korea's biggest business group is part of a suspected leadership transition from group owner Lee Gun-hye to his son Lee Jae-yong. The two companies, which will take on the general trading unit's name Samsung C&T, say this is a strategic move aimed at creating a global lifestyle and biotechnology company. It will target annual revenue of around $54.7 billion in 2020. This is a sharp rise from the two companies' combined annual revenue of roughly $31 billion. Seoul is offering a 0.35 new share for every Samsung C&T share. The head of Korea's central bank has expressed concern about the nation's slowing exports. Meeting with a group of economics professors and researchers on Tuesday, Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol admitted he was worried about Korea's sluggish outbound shipments, especially considering the Korean economy's dependence on exports for its growth. Now, Lee says he plans to lay out monetary policies to boost exports and other growth factors and vowed to monitor their impact on household debt and inflation. The BOK chief also says the bank has increased monitoring of international capital flow with a U.S. rate hike expected this year. Just last week, U.S. Federal Reserve Chairwoman Janet Yellen indicated that the Fed is ready to raise interest rates within the next few months if the U.S. economy continues to improve. Now, with Korea's exports continuing to fall, new reports suggest Japan's currency has had a big impact and domestic exporters aren't compensating well enough. Shin Se-min reports.
The weakening Japanese yen has put a big dent in Korea's price competitiveness. In April, the country's overall outbound shipments were at $46.2 billion, down 8.1% from the same period last year. A Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry survey of 300 exporters shows that 70% do not have a backup plan in place to balance out the impact of the depreciating Japanese currency. More than half said they have seen exports drop. In areas where the neighboring countries compete in exports, such as steel, petrochemical, and auto parts, Korean export volume falls 12% every time Japanese companies drop prices by 10%. However, in Japan, exports have been picking up over the past 2 years, posting over 9% growth in the first quarter of this year compared to the same period in 2014. The sad state of Korea's outbound shipments is worrying BOK chief Lee Ju-yeol. On Tuesday, the governor said the central bank must closely monitor price fluctuations and trends in the global financial market. And as exports make up much more of the domestic economy compared to other advanced economies, there's growing concern about the country's growth in the long run. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, a fourth case of Middle East respiratory syndrome, or MERS, has been confirmed here in Korea. The latest patient is the daughter of the third patient to come down with this viral illness, which has no known cure. Han Da-eun has more.
The Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the fourth MERS patient is a woman in her 40s who had taken care of her father, the third patient, until his case was confirmed. She has been isolated at her own home since last Wednesday, but she's understood to have stood by her father for hours until he was officially diagnosed with the virus. As her body temperature exceeded 38 degrees Celsius, she was taken to an isolation ward for tests on Tuesday, where she was confirmed to be positive. Authorities assume that she didn't contract the virus from her father, but from the first patient, as all three of them had stayed in the same hospital room for about 4 hours until the first patient's case was officially confirmed. Authorities have moved to assure the public that there are no additional cases or suspected patients that require isolation. All 4 patients are said to be stable, but are suffering from high fevers and severe headaches. The MERS virus, which has a fatality rate of around 40%, is relatively new to humans, with only some 1,100 cases reported since the first case was confirmed in Saudi Arabia in 2012. No vaccines or cure have been developed, but fortunately, the virus is not highly contagious. 한다은, 아리랑 News.
Police in Libya say they have arrested 2 suspects in connection with last month's armed attack on the Korean embassy in Tripoli, in which 2 Libyan police officers were killed. According to the embassy, officers are currently interrogating the 2 suspects, who are known to have testified that they committed the crime due to some unspecified resentment. Officials at the embassy, who were tentatively evacuated to Tunisia, say they plan to send a staffer to Tripoli once the security situation improves there. A group that says it's the Tripoli branch of the Islamic State militant group claimed responsibility for the attack, but that has yet to be confirmed. Well, that's all we have for now. Do enjoy the rest of your Tuesday wherever you're watching us, and stay tuned to Arirang TV. Our next newscast will be coming up at 6 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.